Hello, my dear church boys, and welcome back to yet another episode of St. Robert's Daygame podcast. And in this podcast episode, I am chatting with a guy I coached in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I wanted to record this podcast episode because he had quite a bit of dating experience before. He had a decent lay count for his age. He's a very young dude. He's around the mid-20s. He's actually very good at online dating. His business is helping people set up their online dating profiles and teach them about texting. So he was very good with that. But he wanted to have more options, and that's why he decided to learn Daygame. It was interesting to see a perspective about Daygame and Daygame coaching from someone who already was getting pretty decent results from online game. This podcast episode, as usually when I'm having guests on it, is audio only to preserve the privacy of my guest. We're going to be talking about his Daygame story, how he started to learn and the steps he went through and the things he learned and the results he was getting in his dating life and Daygame before, and how was his coaching and learning experience here in Buenos Aires. If after listening to this podcast episode you decide you also want to learn Daygame with me in Buenos Aires, Argentina, I'm here until the late January and have one more coaching spot left. Here, there's a link in the description of this podcast episode where you can find out more about learning Daygame with me. And since this podcast episode is audio only, there is no added video benefit, so you might just as well listen to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well. And if you are someone who is going out and getting some numbers and maybe getting some dates, but you want to improve your texting and your dating, then I have very good news for you if you haven't heard that yet. Yes, well, everyone knows we have a free basic texting and basic dating guide on daygamecourses.com. I've recently launched a new version of the website where everyone not only gets access to the basic courses, but also to the advanced texting and advanced dating courses. So things that are more interesting, what to do when she's responding very slow over your texts or where she stops responding, what to do if she can't come out on a date or insists on going to a specific venue. Also, once you have a girl back at your place, you've gone so far. So what do you do next? How do you escalate there? I give my favorite escalation moves when back at my apartment. How to make her feel more comfortable and open up if sometimes she feels this is a little bit too fast. You can find answers to all of that for completely free on daygamecourses.com. And if the site, by the way, isn't working for you because there's a new hosting and some things have changed, just add www in front of it or simply clean your browsing history. Okay, with all of this being said, let's go talk to my guest now. Well, Josh, welcome to the podcast. And why don't we start with a little bit of background info for you? Maybe tell the guys, where are you from? How old are you? Kind of what do you do for a living, or at least the industry you're in, and basic info like that.
All right. So yeah, my name's Josh, 25 years old. I'm from the Netherlands. Basically, I'd say like in the world of like dating girls in unconventional ways, let's put it that way, for a while now. I think since 2017. I started with Tinder, but also like at night I've done a few stuff like that, and then I dabbled in dating a little bit over the years, and with a mixed degrees of success for each and every part of these dating life thingamajiggies. Let's put it that way.
I understand you're pretty good at Tinder.
Yeah, decently, I'd say, yeah. Basically, what I did with a friend of mine is, back in 2017, I made a Tinder profile in Holland and did not work at all. So I had a friend of mine who's a photographer, and we started experimenting with stuff. And I got more and more matches, and then we started to apply the things I learned there to other guys. So in Holland right now, I've got 2 photographers who basically take pictures of guys, and I help coordinate profiles. And for some people who already have good pictures or other stuff, I basically analyze dating profiles. So that's what I do for living wise. And on the side, I also do a little bit of writing. So yeah.
Okay, so what's your dating history so far? You've done a bit of night game, you've done a bit of day game, you've done a bit of online. What's your lay count right now?
I'd say between 45, maybe 40. I didn't keep track of it after 30 because for me it's not that interesting anymore. Like at the start you're like, oh yeah, that's a new one, but then at the end, you get less of a dopamine boost. So I think that's my experience.
And that's mostly online or mostly night game. Where do those lays come from?
Like if it's 45 lays, 5 of them from day game, I'd say probably 30 from Tinder or like other online dating, and then there's 10 left for night game, I'd say. Yeah, so it's a bit balanced out.
So you're kind of you came with a bit of experience. You have a decent lay count. That's like like not a lot of guys have 45 lays, especially guys. Especially your age, because you're a young dude. How much day game experience did you have before? Because you've day gamed before, I know that.
Yeah, so basically I was incidentally day gaming. So spread out over like the years, I did probably 200 to 250 sets. So basically, if like a date didn't show up or something, and I was kind of salty about that, I just do some random approaches, and then sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So yeah, 250 sets I'd say overall, and then 4 day game lays during those 200 sets.
And were those lays back in Holland? Were they somewhere else?
They were spread out. So one of them was in Holland. I think that was my first day game lay, pretty much. Second one was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. And then the other 2 were here in Buenos Aires.
Yeah, last year when you were here. Well, not last year, earlier this year, basically. Like kind of January, because I was here January, February, March, and then you arrived around that time as well.
Yeah.
Or you were spending more time, I think, in Cordoba.
Yeah, basically I arrived end of March and I stayed till the beginning of May. So I did 5 weeks in Cordoba, and then I did another 5 weeks or so in Buenos Aires.
So for you, where was it easier to get laid from day game, Cordoba or Buenos Aires?
I think it depends on a lot of factors. So I did more approaches in Buenos Aires, so that's probably why I got the day game lay, because in the end it is partially a numbers game, I'd say. But I think if you know what to do, you could probably do a bit more damage in Cordoba if you know Spanish as well.
And how did you do online here? Was Cordoba or Buenos Aires better for you? Last time you were here, I know this time you aren't really doing any online.
Yeah, so I would say Cordoba would be better for online game compared to Buenos Aires, because there's less foreigners there, so you've got more of an exotic factor. Mm-hmm. And logistics is also a bit easier because it's a bit of a smaller city, so you don't have to take a cab of a girl from a bar to somewhere else, or from your place to a bar, and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I'd say. Okay,
so having all of that experience before already in your life from dating, a little bit of day game, why did you decide to get day game coaching? Because we actually started talking about this like a long time ago, and then you said, okay, like you're going to Argentina, let's do this. Why did you decide to do that?
So for me, because I also worked with like some coaches, mostly like night game coaches, I know if you want to do something well in this regard, or if you want to do something in this regard, you need to do it really well. So that's why I wanted to do coaching. And also because I worked in this industry, I know a lot of guys who go on like a boot camp for 2 days or maybe a week, and then they kind of enter this zone, this state where you're doing really well during that week, but then you go back to your little home, back to your old environment, and then you get a reality check where, oh, I can only do well if I'm on a boot camp. So that's why I chose this kind of coaching where it's like pretty much 1 session a week. Only at the start we did 2 sessions in a few days. So it becomes like a part of your habitual life, I'd say. So that's why I chose day game coaching instead of other methods.
Yeah, because we had, first week we did 2 days in 1 week, and then we did 1 session a week, and you were day gaming on your own kind of between the sessions. And why Argentina instead of Europe? Because you had an option to do this in Europe. Why did you choose Argentina?
Several reasons. So I'd say first of all, it just coincided with my general travel plans as well. Because I was thinking about going to like Southeast Asia during this time of the year, but they still have a kind of strict mask policy, so I didn't fancy that much. But that politics aside, Also, it's a lot cheaper in Argentina, a bit more adventure. And I kind of like going to places where there's not that many people like doing day game or other kinds of stuff. And I think this is still, it's upcoming, but there's not a lot of people who are doing like day game here.
I've never been recognized as many times on the street. I mean, except maybe like Latvia.
Really?
I had several guys walk up to me on the street here. It's like, hey, sorry, you're St. Robert.
Really?
Like, I'm here from somewhere. Like, what's the story? Interesting, yeah. But yeah, there are definitely some day gamers here, but very, very few. And maybe someone's doing something like here or there. But because of the language barrier, I think a lot of guys choose places like Medellin, where the English level is a little bit higher. But okay, that makes sense. That's the reason you choose Argentina. I can understand that. Okay, let's talk about your game and how it changed kind of after coaching. What do you think are the biggest things you learned, or how has your game changed throughout this? Well, we've been working together for like a month here, more or less.
I'd say the biggest change is just in general structure. I think that's also what you're mostly known about, just having a good structure. So now I've always got a backbone which I'm using or at least leaning on. And basically during the sets, if you know you've got all that structure ready, you're a lot calmer during your sets. And I think that will just already improve your game quite a lot. So I'd say that's like the biggest thing. And then also during your coaching, like when you do a set, you get feedback and you can make like mini improvements during the sets. And that's how like slow incremental changes basically really improved my game in that way.
Okay, and if you look back at your game before we started, you said now there is a lot more structure. You can have a backbone to lean on. What were the kind of like the biggest changes that you made in your structure in day game? What were the biggest changes in your sets, like before and after coaching? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think before coaching, I never really did like double stacks, I'd say. I just did one stack and then you just moved on in more like a natural model, I guess. But then you just run out of shit to talk about quite soon. So, yeah, I discovered maybe a second set's pretty good as well. And then the other thing, is I'm sticking a bit more to topics as well. So I don't feel like the chimpanzee is just going from one topic to the other topic. So you get more, I wouldn't say necessarily deeper, but there are at least less platonic conversations, and that helps during the sets as well.
Yeah, that's one of the big things this kind of when it comes to stacking is guys are jumping from topic to topic all the time, and that's why they run out of things to talk about super fast. The guy would be like 2.5, 3 minutes into the set, and he doesn't know what to talk about anymore because he did all the topics, and then that's kind of staying on a topic and knowing how to move from one topic to another, whether the stacking or something else. Like that's, I think those are like a few of the biggest things in day game. Anything else that changed before and after, or?
I wouldn't say necessarily changed. It's just a lot of like small reinforcements of basically the way I learn stuff is just basically by doing it and learning it the hard way. And that means I don't really think that much about theory, and then I just discover it by, I guess, pretty cruel lessons every time. So that just helped me a lot, yeah.
Cruel lessons.
Yeah, you know, when you don't stop like hard enough, or you got like the please fuck me little voice, you know, then you're like, okay, she just continues over her day, and that just always hurts. So then next time you won't have that voice. So stuff like that.
Yeah, we had the last session where you had a few of those first sets were like pretty weak voice and long pauses between sets, but then you realized it and you said, fuck this, I'm changing things, and boom, you started doing sets one after another. Voice was there, everything was there, and all of a sudden everything started to click. Okay, what do you think about day game in Buenos Aires? Do you have any comments on that?
I think it's a decent city for day game. The thing is, I haven't like done a lot of sets in a lot of different cities, day game wise, but I think it's a good place to go if you know Spanish. I think that's a big if. I think in Europe we're quite spoiled, where like everything is very congregated. So for me, it feels like the girls are a bit separated here. So you need to go to a few places at certain times, and then you have enough volume, but you still need to walk a decent amount of time. So like I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we explored different neighborhoods. We explored Palermo, San Telmo, Microcentro. I went to Recoleta as well to check it out. We did find an area at the end where we were doing most of our sessions, and that area seemed very good. It was very, very busy, and there's always people around. So it was fairly easy, I would say, to get in 8 to 10 sets in a session. We didn't have almost any problems with that, so that's pretty amazing. Especially kind of during the last weeks when people started shopping for Christmas, it was very nice. Yeah, I'll make a separate podcast episode where I give my kind of feedback on the game in Buenos Aires and spots we checked out and types of girls and everything. Yeah, by the way, what do you think? What are your thoughts of girls in Argentina, the quality we saw here in the streets?
Well, for me, I noticed there's a big difference between cities here. So here in Buenos Aires, they got a little bit more the Italian look and a bit more alternative. They got a bit more tattoos and yeah. So compared to some other cities, you've got more of the Germanic look. I have no reason why that happened. Some grandfathers arrived here a few years ago, maybe, but
80 years ago.
yeah, for unknown reasons. But yeah, if you're like into alternative type of girls, with lots of tattoos or like piercings and stuff, it's definitely a good place, Buenos Aires, I'd say, yeah.
Because you have that in mix with beauty.
Yeah.
Very often you get that. But then you go to Cordoba, and like the average girl walking down the street is like she is dressed super simply, like not the newest clothes, not the kind of I don't know. You know, they're very limited by their budget. In Cordoba, you can see that the people really live simple lives, but you can see that under that simple outside, like she is hot as fuck.
That's putting it lightly, yeah.
Okay, so you have a lot of Tinder experience. You've experimented with Daygame. You said that you can. No, let's start with this. So now during coaching, you saw what's possible with Daygame. You saw what the limits are, or not the limits. You got a glimpse of what's possible when you really put yourself to it, but you also saw how much work it takes. So what's your Daygame plan?
So my day game plan right now is just trying to find a good balance, basically. First of all, I'm just gonna be reinforcing what I learned from the session by going to a place where I can do some consistent sets, pretty much every single day. The other thing about Buenos Aires is for me at least, you have to do a decent bit of walking before you get to a place where you can do sets. So yeah, I'm gonna go to a place where they won't have that big a problem that way, and with less other distractions as well. Because here you've got a good nomad community and stuff. So I think I'm gonna stay away from that and just focus pure on work and digging for the month. That's my plan for the first time, like the first month or so. And then I'm probably heading somewhere closer to my family in Europe, and then I'll try to just stay near closer areas and still be consistent, I'd say. That's my plan right now. I'm gonna try to do 25 sets a week. I don't think I'm gonna do like that much more, but not that much less either. Just to find a good balance between like making day game like a small part of your life, but not like dominating it totally, for me at least. But it depends on every single person.
Okay. So you being, let's call it, well, I mean, your business is partially, one of your businesses is Tinder related. You teach guys about how to set up profiles and you kind of know what you're doing there. And now you learned some day game. What are your comments on Tinder versus day game?
I see them both basically as tools that you can just use to meet women. I think every person, every man should be able to know how to at least approach girls on the street, but also online game as well. Because basically what we saw early in the pandemic, like if shit hits the fan, there might be not that many girls on the street, or the other way around, there's too many guys on Tinder. So you need to basically spread your eggs in a basket and be good in different kind of styles. And that's also one of the motivations I had for also learning dating on the side. So I think you should be able to do both and just use them to a certain degree. So Tinder's pretty good, like in the first week if you're heading somewhere, or 1 week before if you're going to use the passport application thingy-jingy. And then as soon as you're there, you get maybe a nice Tinder lane, and then you can just go do some day game because you got some nice confidence. I think it's a good balance between the two.
Yeah, I could agree kind of with this point of getting your first one quickly.
Yeah.
And then just, go do your thing, go day game. Quality of girls you've been on dates with from Tinder and day game. Again, you are a very young dude, so that's a kind of different thing. So your results on Tinder will be better because of that. But in your experience, quality of girls you've been on dates with.
I'd say on average with day game, they're higher, I'd say. It depends a bit as well, because sometimes during day game, you see a cute chick and she's not wearing any makeup, and then she arrives on a date with makeup, and you're like, oh wait, okay, maybe she's way better than I thought before, right?
Revert catfish.
Yeah, exactly.
Reverse catfish,
so on average, I'd say you approach hotter girls with day game. On the other hand, you can also choose your different types as well with day game, so I think that works well as well.
Okay, well, thank you for doing this, and good luck in the future with day game.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. As I said before, if you are interested in learning day game with me in Buenos Aires, Argentina, or anywhere else, there is a link where you can find out everything about learning day game with me in the description. And if you want to improve your texting and your dating, then head over to daygamecourses.com and check out both the basic and advanced texting and dating courses. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next podcast episode. Ciao, guys.